The Alpha's Untamable Luna. Episode 10. When I look up, I see that Nova is texting someone frantically, and I'm almost scared to say anything more to divert her attention. As her fingers stop dancing and she puts her phone away, Nova explains, "We have major work to do, so I'm calling in reinforcements. First things first, makeup. That is going to take me the longest to do, so what are you picturing?" she asks, aiming for me. I proceed to pick up the box that I had left on her kitchen table earlier. I set it on the bed and give it a nod. As Nova inquisitively opens the box, I remark, "That's your inspiration." When she carefully lifts the dress, her mouth opens. As she studies the dress's shape, texture, and movement in the light, she asks herself, "Holy shit, where did this come from?" I laugh and say simply, "Finn." I smile as I remember the gesture. It was ideal. He gave it to me this morning as a gift. I scoff and roll my eyes at Nova's understated statement, "My God, he really does love you." Of course, this is how Nova determines his feelings for me. No matter. I know exactly what to do. We both turn to see who is going to enter as I hear footsteps coming from the hallway towards the door. As the door barely opens to reveal who it is, Nova grins and says, "And I think that would be our reinforcements." As they enter the room, they declare, "Knock, knock." "Miriam?" I ask, a little perplexed, as Finn's mother greets me with a warm smile. Nova shrugs when I ask her a question. I nod in agreement as Nova states plainly, "She's the best hairdresser in the pack, I wasn't about to settle for anything less." I turn to face Miriam, who appears amused, and say, "I didn't know that." Miriam raises a black duffel bag that I didn't realize she was carrying and says, "Well, I did have a day job at one point before being Luna. I kept it up well enough over the years, just not in the traditional salon-type setting." "I'm ready when you are." Nova is talking endlessly about color schemes and complementary hues as I'm moved into the bathroom. Miriam sits me down in front of the mirror and immediately starts going through her numerous bags of cosmetics. "Now," Miriam says, grinning at me in the mirror as she takes my hair in her hands and pulls it back over my shoulders. "Let's get started." Finn Maddox, Jace, and I are waiting for our eastern factions to arrive at the edge of the parking lot. They won't be long now, as last we heard they were just turning onto the logging road. As they get closer, I can actually hear the low rumble of engines pricking my ears. We see two headlights turn the corner and look directly at us, with numerous others following. Since we rarely have this many cars on Dreadmore property at once, they are sent to the overflow parking. I crane my neck to search for Charles and Riley as I wait as everyone starts to unload from the cars. My eyes and ears, the messengers of my power, are Charles and Riley, the assigned Alpha/Luna duo in charge of our eastern packs. They have served my family without hesitation or fault for almost 30 years, so to say they are loyal would be a huge understatement. They are among the bobbing heads, and I see them looking at Charles as he takes Riley's hand in his and walks towards me. I give them a solemn nod and offer Charles my forearm, which he enthusiastically grasps. "Charles, Riley," I say. With an unmistakable smile, Charles says, "Alpha, it's good to see you in the flesh again, it's been too long." Even I am fooled by his youthful attitude, even though he is now in his 50s. He appears healthy and well-groomed, with a full beard and dark hair that is slightly flecked with grey. I scowl as I briefly see pictures of the strikers. Likewise. I only regret to have to meet under these circumstances. I smirk and give Charles a thoughtful glance before turning back to his mate. And Riley, I trust you're keeping this one in his place. Riley bumps her shoulder into Charles and smiles, her feline features soft and expressive. She reminds me of a boxer, short but strong, with a small frame made mostly of muscle. Someone has to, otherwise we'd all be in trouble. She has long black hair in 2 braids down her back. One of our best fighters and trainers, Riley is mostly in charge of making sure our members are in peak condition. As more members focus on me and take note of the 2 golden black bands around my bicep that denote my status as alpha, the cacophony of voices around us becomes quiet. Almost all of these faces are unfamiliar to me, I have never seen many of them. I am the real authority, even though Charles is their apparent alpha. I greet the faces blinking back at me, saying, "Welcome, everyone." There is much to discuss regarding the rival pack we have encountered, but we will have time for that later. I cautiously look around the crowd as I continue. With a faint smile, I say, "Tonight, we celebrate. Not only do we wish to welcome you, our brothers and sisters, to this land and the rest of your pack, but it is also the title night of my mate." At this news, hushed murmurs of surprise break out. Even the eastern factions are unaware that Dahlia is my mate, as are many members of my pack here. Waiting until they got there to tell them felt appropriate. It reduces the amount of time they have to guess and speculate about Dahlia's identity. Dahlia doesn't deserve to be introduced to werewolves in this manner, as they are notorious for spreading false information and rumors. Charles repeats, equally surprised, "Mate," before beaming broadly. He claps me on the back and says, "Alpha, this is wonderful. Congratulations to you." Riley smiles with him. As Charles puts an arm around her waist and draws her to him, Riley teases, "I can't wait to meet her. She must be something to keep up with the likes of you, Alpha." That she must be. This is a celebration. It appears that Charles is experiencing the best news he has had in a while. However, it doesn't take much to get Charles excited. I turn back to the rest of the pack and say, "Please, take time to rest up before our gathering begins." As I say this, their voices start to fade once more. "Maddox and Jace will show you the way to your accommodations, as well as our training grounds. Please help yourself to the amenities, you are as welcome here as you are on your own lands." I nod solemnly, making eye contact with my pack members, who are displaying a range of emotions, including curiosity, suspicion, and even caution. I can't blame them for feeling even the smallest bit uneasy about their unexpected visit. They might feel welcome here in a symbolic sense, but that doesn't mean they actually do. I would probably be behaving in the same manner if it were me. Maddox yells, "Follow us," as he turns around and Jace follows closely behind him as they start to guide the enormous group towards the town's interior. As I fall into step, Charles and Riley follow, trailing behind the group. We keep enough distance to have a private conversation by hanging back a few feet. Alpha Charles starts, and I can hear the urgency and anxiety in his voice, but I quickly interrupt him. I can already tell what he's going to ask. It's frustrating to be alpha and not have all the facts, so I say, I realize you two are likely just as anxious to hear more of this rival pack as the rest of our members. Charles and Riley must act and think like the real thing most of the time, even though they are merely a pseudo-alpha and Luna. I respect them for not wanting to be in the dark any more than I do. Riley says, "You told us little when you summoned us here." I remember the short phone conversation that ensued. Here, we have to contend with a rival pack. Although their precise numbers and the person in charge are unknown, we do know that they are vicious and erratic at the moment. As soon as you can make arrangements, I need you all here. I remember exactly what I said, and I realize how ambiguous it must have been for the person who received it. Still, I did it on purpose. I didn't want to say too much in case it sparked harmful rumors and conjecture among the lower pack members. I've already made that error, and I won't do it again. I vouch for Riley's claim that I did. You're right. I start in a low voice and carefully slow down a bit more to keep us safe from the throng of pack members ahead of us. The truth is this pack seems to operate in ways I've never seen, ways my father has never seen. Like a sixth sense, I can sense the twitches of interest in Riley and Charles. Charles sounds uncertain and nervous as he asks, "Dare we ask what that means, exactly?" Riley and Charles don't back down from a fight, but that doesn't mean they'll encounter one mindlessly. Additionally, I would never ask them or anyone else in this pack, for that matter, to do that. My thoughts turn to the night in the cave where we interrogated the striker member. All we know is they stay in wolf form nearly full time. They consider the human form to be weak, inferior, unnatural. It was astonishing and shocking how thoroughly and honestly he detested his own humanity. Charles appears genuinely perplexed, and Riley appears suspicious. Riley purses her lips thoughtfully and asks, "Really? All the time? Whatever for?" I shrug and sigh. They claim it's the way we were intended to exist. That being human goes against our nature, and we have to return to being wolves, and wolves only. I clenched my teeth. But it seems that the more time they spend as wolves, the less human they are. We observed their pack on what used to be Frostclaw's territory. It was unsettling, to say the least. Charles quickly catches my phrasing, "used to be." Before I can control it, I feel a wave of rage rising up into my veins and chest, making me feel almost feverish for a short while. I kick a pine cone in my path away from me, sending it flying into the treeline as I swallow, saying, "They attacked Frostclaw, obliterated it. There are no survivors we know of, except one. My mate, Dahlia." Since this information gives them much more context for why I want to make sure this pack is defeated, I can sense the change in Charles and Riley's emotions. It is about justice and retribution, not about territory, wealth, or population growth. Riley asks softly, She escaped, somehow, probably concerned that he is asking too many questions. She has no idea how prepared I am for everyone to realize how insane and messed up this pack is, what they do, and how urgently they must be stopped. I shake my head and jam my hands into my jeans pockets. I think it was a miracle she did the smart thing and ran. She realized there was no chance of her making it out if she stayed. Had to watch her entire pack and family get slaughtered while she did, but she made it. Charles shakes his head in shamed amazement and scoffs. He puts his arm around Riley's shoulders and says, "The horrors she must have witnessed, the poor girl." He probably wonders what he would do if Riley had been Dahlia's replacement. "You must be, my God, livid, to say the least." I chuckle bitterly as the anger flares up inside of me again. I say without hesitation, "You have no idea. If it's the last thing I do, I will have this alpha's head." Riley frowns and asks a quick follow-up, "We cannot blame you for that. How did she find her way to you?" I can't help but think of Dahlia and the day she ran through the town square, covered in blood and in a state of panic I've never seen before. Dumb luck, fate, chance, call it what you want, it was a miracle she stumbled into our boundaries. Originally, she was perceived as a hostile party, but when a pair of strikers had followed after her, we realized she was actually running. I clarify as we enter the suburbs of the town's center. I stop where we are, still far from the big group in front of us and the other people who are rushing around the shops and vendors. With a somber expression, Charles says, "You must have been shocked to find her the way you did." He is probably attempting to visualize Dahlia's condition. I look out into the square and honestly say, shocked doesn't begin to cover it. I feel a lump rise in my throat, but I try my best to swallow it back. I was standing right there, on my way to go interrogate this attacker Maddox and Jace encountered, and she just appeared, covered in blood, injured, panicked like you've never seen. Riley, who now appears much more irate than depressed, shakes her head. She turns to face Charles and says, "What a disgusting tragedy she endured, the pack who killed hers must be held accountable." They speak without using words. Charles states solemnly, "We have always been behind you, Alpha, but we are now behind Dahlia too. A crime of that magnitude cannot go unpunished. You both deserve to have your closure, and your justice." I give thanks by lifting the corners of my mouth a little. Even though I never doubted Charles and Riley's devotion to Dahlia or to me, hearing it aloud is comforting. I firmly hold Charles's forearm while acknowledging with a nod. I turn to take hold of Riley's forearm, which she holds with even more strength than Charles's. "I appreciate that very much, from both of you," I say. "I hope once you get the chance to meet Dahlia, you'll understand even more just how much she deserves to see them answer for what they did." Riley gives a sorrowful smile. "I don't doubt that we will. For her to have been matched with you already speaks volumes. To meet her will be nothing short of an honor, Alpha." Charles gives his mate a nod of agreement. "Anything you or Dahlia need of us, do not hesitate." As we start to slowly make our way towards the busy section of the main square, I give him a warm pat on the back. They already know how much it means to me, I don't have to tell them. Soon after, I let Riley and Charles be on their own. They don't require a tour or direction because they have been here numerous times. It's getting close to 5 o'clock when I check my watch. I still haven't showered or changed before the dinner at 6, and I can't afford to be late tonight of all nights. Dahlia, I'm standing in Nova's bedroom, looking at myself in the floor-length mirror, my mind still processing what I'm seeing. Miriam and I are by ourselves while Nova is in the bathroom getting ready. Miriam smiles softly behind me in the mirror, and my eyes meet hers in the reflection. "He won't be able to take his eyes off you." As she puts a hand on my shoulder, she pauses to adjust the strap of my dress. I smile softly and say, you and Nova really outdid yourselves. I'm still not entirely sure how they managed to do everything they did in such a short period of time. I try to calm my already pounding heart by taking a deep breath. I keep trying to remind myself that, in reality, nothing will change for me tonight. I've always been Finn's mate, and I always knew that meant I would eventually become Luna of the Dreadmoor. Nevertheless, as I stand here in this lovely dress and gaze at this powerful, commanding version of myself in the mirror, it feels like everything is going to change drastically tonight. I tell her, feeling my throat constricted, I'm nervous, Miriam. Miriam's face softens into a sympathetic, maternal one. Oh honey, she says with a knowing smile and a head shake. She laughs as she puts both of her hands on my shoulders and gives them a light squeeze, saying, I know, believe me I know. But this is also the beginning of so many wonderful things for you and Finn, for the pack as a whole, a transition, yes, but one that is sure to bring many good things along with it too. I reach up to put my hand on top of Miriam's in gratitude, and her eyes never leave mine in the mirror. As I consider how many people I will now be responsible for, I bite my lip unsurely and say, I just want to do it right. More than anything, I don't want to let anyone down. There are 1,500 Dreadmoors living here alone, and that doesn't even count the various eastern factions Finn and his father founded years ago, some of which are still present today. Miriam gently turns me to face her, and since I'm already in my heels, she stands considerably shorter than I do at the moment. Just focus on not letting yourself down, and the rest will follow. Packs are not made strong because the leaders do everything right, every time. They're made strong because of error, because of mistakes, and then learning from them. Her gaze softens significantly. I recall having to tell Finn something similar the night he took over from his father as Alpha. She giggles. I remember Finn telling me I would be as capable as Luna when we hiked the mountain behind the cabin. I chuckle and glance down at my painted toenails. I think he may have reiterated that advice to me not too long ago, I say. With a friendly laugh, she says, because it's good advice I should know. She then turns away and takes something out of her black duffel bag. She hands me a small, elaborate wooden box and says, I wanted to give this to you. The elaborate carvings on the exterior are as beautiful as ever, despite the obvious signs of wear and tear. Curious, I take the box from Miriam. I laugh and open the little box to reveal a lovely necklace. I didn't realize you receive so many gifts on your title night. As she tells me, it was first given to me by Corwin's mother, on my title night. It was given to her by the Luna before her, and so on. It's been in the family for 7 generations now, getting passed down from one Dreadmoor Luna to the next. Miriam is clearly taking great pleasure in giving it to me. I'm in awe of the jagged, rough obsidian in the shape of an arrowhead, with the stone's outer edges appearing to be coated in gold. The various striations on the stone's rough, uneven surface, which curl and curve this way and that like waves crashing against one another, add to its allure. The gem, which gleams exquisitely even in Nova's bedroom lighting, is suspended from a long, thick golden chain. I manage to say, genuinely surprised, oh, wow. I look up at her and notice that her eyes are full of tears. I had no idea the Dreadmoors have been around for so long. This is beautiful. She smiles through her sparkling eyes as she takes the box from me and carefully removes the necklace, saying, "I've been waiting what feels like a very long time to finally do this." As Miriam reaches up and over me to put it around my neck, I turn back to face the mirror. I feel the obsidian's smooth and rough edges beneath the pad of my thumb as I lightly move my fingers over its surface and then along its exterior. Not only does it feel heavy around my neck, but it also has a symbolic weight. A peculiar sensation of calmness overtakes me. I feel as if this calm, capable energy is emanating from the stone itself. My stomach knots and nerves start to relax, and the fluttering in my chest becomes barely perceptible. My shoulders loosen up and pull away from their stiff position, and I take what seems to be my first deep, full breath of the day. This necklace has been worn by Lunas for 7 generations. Throughout history, women have ruled the Dreadmoors with this accessory by their sides. If only this gem could talk the tales it could relate. Miriam says simply, "Gorgeous." This pulls me out of my reverie and back to the image of myself that is now adorned with the striking piece. Nova bursts in at that moment, her makeup flawless and her hair falling in soft waves from Miriam's skillful styling. She stops short when she sees me standing in front of the mirror with the obsidian glistening around my neck. "How could I have lost my lip liner for the 5th freaking time?" she asks. She exclaims, "Holy shit, Dahlia Winters," and forgets all about looking for her lip liner. As she approaches, she exclaims, "You are such a badass," with a broad smile. I turn to look at Miriam as her eyes focus on the new accessory as we both laugh. "Whoa," she exhales deeply. "Is that what I think it is?" she asks, turning to Miriam, who merely nods in agreement. As Nova carefully examines it with a gleam of wonder in her eyes, she says, "And here I thought I'd never get the chance to see the Luna's obsidian, given Finn's incredibly long wait for his mate." "You're really doing this?" she exclaims with fanfare. She yanks me into a ferocious embrace, holding me so firmly that I'm amazed someone as small as Nova can be so strong. I get a flutter in my chest as this reality hits me again today. "I am so happy for you to be our new Luna," Nova says with a big smile as we part ways. "I know you're going to do so well at it." "Thanks Nova," I say, taking a deep breath to regain my composure. I stutter, shaking my head and chuckling lightly. It's becoming more and more real by the minute. I look back at Miriam and see that she hasn't even started preparing for this whole thing. I look around to see where she put her own clothes for tonight and say, "Miriam, we've barely any time left before we have to go." Miriam waves a hand as she strolls effortlessly over to her black bag on the ground, saying, "Oh, no need to fret." She laughs quietly to herself as she takes a pretty navy dress out of the bag and says, "I've had plenty of practice in getting ready under the gun. It's an art I've practically perfected by now." Nova quickly remarks, "Oh, that's a great choice for tonight, Miriam." I agree that the dress is beautiful. With its long sleeves, high neckline, and delicate lace overlay, it is understated yet sophisticated. She looks back at me and smiles knowingly as she continues, "Thank you, but I have a feeling all eyes will be elsewhere tonight." Nova fusses over the last details of my hair and makeup while Miriam gets ready, insisting that she has to do this. Knowing that my attempt to argue with her will be in vain, I give up. Instead of letting me arrive at my title night dinner looking anything but spotless, Nova would sooner walk over hot coals. Once Nova is happy, she looks at me with a proud smile and sits back. She smiles and says, "My God, I have outdone myself, haven't I?" I can't help but chuckle as she praises her own creation. You're ready for this whether you feel like it is another story, face it, my dear one, you're a Dreadmore Luna. Fin. I watch as more and more people stream in to take their seats from the edge of the dining area. Dahlia led in setting up. She did an amazing job, not that I ever questioned her. When we look to claim new land and members, our resident pack usually doesn't need any help, so this gathering might be the first of its kind. I'm trying to remember the last time so many Dreadmores were in one location, but I can't. Or, at the very least, the first of its kind during my alpha reign. Are you going to come join us or stand there, brooding? I'm startled out of my reverie by a voice, and I turn to see Sam standing at her chair at the head table, a few feet in front of me. She's wearing what may be the most elegant dress I've ever seen her in, and her hair is styled in a complex braid that my mother undoubtedly assisted her with. Dressing up has never been Sam's style. The monthly dinners, I believe, are the one exception she makes, and she primarily does so because my mother insists that this occasion requires a certain level of sophistication. Regretfully, Sam does not consider torn jeans and baggy hoodies to be sophisticated. I teasingly respond to her, "I'm not brooding." I honestly tell her, crossing my arms and rubbing my chin thoughtfully, "I'm just trying to remember the last time we had this many members in one place at the same time." Sam looks out at the sea of heads in front of us, some of which are still bouncing around in search of available seats at tables. She thinks, her lips pursed. She agrees with me, and I sigh before moving forward to take hold of the back of my own chair, which is 2 seats over from Sam's. I can't say, really. This might be a first. I set my jaw and say, I'm not sure if I should be happy or worried about it. Naturally, I'm happy that some of our Eastern factions are providing the support we need, but it only serves as a sobering reminder that, as Dreadmores, we have never had to come together in this manner before. That is, we have never faced an enemy that demanded such a reaction from us, and that is what is making my stomach turn. "Hey," Sam says abruptly, catching my eye and drawing it to hers. With more emotion than I would have thought, she yells, "You are not allowed to go all Mr. Doom and Gloom, especially tonight, of all nights." She rolls her eyes, but a smile appears on her lips, and I too get a little twitch at the corners of my mouth. This is a night about Dahlia, about both of you. It's meant to be fun, happy, even downright joyous. Don't let all this striker bullshit sabotage you from properly enjoying this. Dahlia deserves more than that. My sister's words strike a chord with me, and I take a moment to carefully consider her before answering. Sam appears to genuinely care, which is not something I often see in her. Sam usually doesn't care about anyone or anything around her. It's as if she lives in an impenetrable bubble. To be honest, I've always admired her for being so impervious to outside influences. It goes without saying that Sam and Dahlia had the chance to get to know one another better during their evening together. But just how much better? It almost makes me nervous to find out. Again, I didn't think I had a mate out there to introduce to my obnoxious little sister, so I never even considered the possibility of my mate and my sister getting to know one another, much less be friends. Sam gives me a simple "you're right," and I notice a brief look of surprise on her face. I'll bet she wasn't expecting me to give in so easily, and she rarely gets the satisfaction of being correct when we're speaking. I'll just do what you do, tune everything out except the shit that matters. Sam actually laughs and nods in agreement when I smile. She's smug as she takes a sip of her wine, and I reach for my own wine glass on the table, which hasn't been touched since it was poured 20 minutes ago. I have to say, you'd be wise to follow your sister's lead once in a while. I shake my head and say, don't go getting too invested in that, I think you would be setting yourself up for disappointment. Sam shrugs effortlessly, idly swirling her glass while her gaze moves across the space in front of us. Don't worry, I know better than to do that. She gives me a cheeky look in return. I smirk and clink my glass against hers as she raises hers to mine, saying, to the shit that matters. Before we both take a big swig, I say again, the shit that matters. Since I know this won't be my last night, I choose to just finish the glass. Suddenly, as if out of thin air, my grandmother materializes beside me and laughs. She chuckles to herself as Sam and I exchange glances of mild concern and affection for Greta and what condition she might end up in by tonight's end. My, someone is certainly in the celebratory mood. Good. I wasn't sure anyone at this little shindig would be able to keep up with me. Greta smiles contentedly as she settles into her chair after I bring it out for her. She places her glass on the table, smooths the tablecloth's fabric, and looks out, saying, "Thank you, Finn." She smiles to herself and looks up at me, saying, on a scale of 1 to terrified, "How nervous are you, my boy? We've got a full house, don't we?" Her blue eyes are keen, and I don't like how piercing they are. It gives me the impression that I'm going to get into trouble, as if I'm still a young child who plays rough with his younger sister too much. I shrug and shake my head, putting my hands in my trousers pockets and saying, "Come on, Grandma, you know I don't get nervous." Sam smirks broadly as she sits next to Greta. Laughing, she says, which is to say he is absolutely losing it on the inside. Greta smiles with laughter. They start talking and laughing, mostly at me, but I let them enjoy themselves. Tonight is supposed to be a celebration, as Sam mentioned, and I believe I can afford to treat my sister and grandmother to something special because of that. The problem is that I don't feel anxious at all. I'm confident that Dahlia will adjust to being Luna of the Dreadmoors with ease and that our other members will embrace her without reservation. Especially with the unwavering endorsement of the Alpha. However, Dahlia would still gain the respect and allegiance of the pack by simply being herself, even if my word didn't matter as much as it does. This is undeniable in my opinion, as no pack member could object to Dahlia's title of Luna once they realized who she is and all the good she plans to do. In my opinion, there is only one straightforward solution to this equation: everything will change for the better when Dahlia plays Luna. My mother comes up wearing a navy blue lace dress and exclaims, "Oh, there you are," in a high-pitched, giddy voice. She gives me a quick peck on the cheek as I say, "Hi Mum," and bend down to give her a quick hug. I say, "You look nice." She gives me a kind smile. She laughs to herself and says, "Thank you honey, although I think Dahlia is going to show every one of us up in a moment." This only makes me more curious and excited to see Dahlia at last. I nod in agreement and smile a little. "I think you're probably right." She has a way of doing that. As I visualize Dahlia wearing the dress I bought her, I feel my chest tighten in that strangely pleasurable way. My mother holds my hand tightly with both of hers while gazing up at me with eyes that I know are actually tears in the making. She struggles to control her emotion as she says, "I am," and I furrow my brows in worry before she can say anything more. Keeping her makeup intact, she sniffs and wipes the corner of her eye, saying, "I am so happy that you two found each other, Finn. I really, truly, am. I adore Dahlia, and I can see how much good she's done for you, even in this short time." When my mother gives me a gentle squeeze on the hand, I can see how happy and relieved she is that I mated with Dahlia. I guess I didn't think about who else was there, who else had to watch me lose pieces of myself as I went during all these years of conquest and expansion, the years I spent losing myself in the desire for more. When I think about this reality, I feel overwhelmed. My poor parents must have felt helpless as they watched their son succumb to hunger. I was cold, resentful, and aloof. It was simpler and allowed me to think more clearly. Emotions and feelings only complicate an alpha's decision-making process. One of the main reasons I've been so successful is that I've never let myself get too close to anything or anyone. For my family, it must have been like watching someone lock themselves in a cage and discard the key, but for me, living in such a closed-off state came naturally. "I know, Mum," I say as I draw her close to me and put my arms around her petite frame. She gives me tenfold in return, her hold on me startlingly firm. I whisper in her ear, "I'm sorry," and then lay my head on top of hers for a while. She is aware of my apology, I'm sure. I was unaware of how my own destructive tendencies affected other people and how they had to go through unnecessary suffering. However, I was unaware of what I now know. I had no idea Dahlia was out there, that she would eventually find me, and that she was actually only a few dozen miles north of our territory at Frostclaw. No, that seemed like an unthinkable fact. However, I brought others into it, whether on purpose or not, and I was responsible for letting it push me into this state. After a while, we pull away, and despite her appearance and her slightly smudged makeup, my mother laughs. My mother wipes her eyes and says, "Oh, now look what you've done. You've reduced me to a mess. Nova would have your head if she saw her masterpiece so ruined." I laugh as well, wondering where Nova is at the moment. I'd venture to guess that they're still finishing Dahlia. I take an extra serviette from the table and give it to my mother, saying, "Well, it's a good thing she won't have to know." When my father emerges from behind my mother, I nod hello and he wraps his arm around her waist. As my mother leans into him and shakes her head, he provokes me with a humorous yet charming expression of affection. "Jesus, Finn, you're with her for 2 seconds and she's bawling," he asks. I back away and put my hands up in front of me. As my mother laughs and tries to swat me with her serviette, I smile and say, "I cannot be held responsible for this. Mum is a sap at the best of times, what else did you expect on a night like this?" She argues as my dad kisses her temple, saying, "Oh, stop. It's a special occasion. Incredibly special. Let me have my moment." He gives her a gentle squeeze and says, "You're more than entitled to have some tears tonight, Ren." He points my mother towards their seats at the end of the table and says, "Let's get seated, Finn, now would be a good time to commence the evening." I look around and see that my dad is correct, almost everyone is seated now, and I can sense that more and more eyes are turning to the head table in anticipation and waiting. As I lightly tap my fork against my wine glass, the sound reverberates throughout the group, causing everyone to become quiet. When I say good evening, I square my shoulders and extend a warm greeting. I clench my jaw a little as I feel that low boil of rage inside of me. Thank you for coming out tonight to join us in the welcoming of our Eastern Pax, who traveled here to assist in our upcoming confrontation with our rival, the Strikers. I can't blame my pack for being suspicious or wary, but I can't let them get sucked into a gossip storm of confusion and false information. Voices start whispering to each other in a quiet but frantic hum, probably exchanging theories about who this pack is, where they're from, and why they're doing it. However, I say sharply, bringing the crowd's focus back to me and causing their murmurs to stop. This is not only a celebration to welcome our friends who have traveled to be here, but also a celebration in the title night of my mate. Before I can stop myself, the words flow out of my mouth, and then suspicion and excitement start to float. I even occasionally manage to pick up a few phrases. Alpha has made it? I had no idea. I've seen her a few times. She was organizing this dinner. I thought she was just some newcomer. This means we're going to have a new Luna. I saw them together the other day. She is so lucky to get to claim all that. My ears are full of the many whispers, and it is almost impossible to block them out. I need to get their focus again. The crowd goes silent again as I yell, if you all could please join me in welcoming her here, officially, as a member of our pack, as your new Luna, Dahlia, please come forward. Almost everyone in the crowd turns around in different directions to find her when I beckon for her. We all wait in silence for a while, and I get anxious as I question Dahlia's whereabouts and the reason she hasn't come out yet. She's not second-guessing herself, is she? We don't have to do this right now, if she doesn't want to. I know that a title night feels like a huge deal, and in some ways it is. I hope she is aware of that. I hope she understands that I wouldn't be angry. This is only something I want if and when she does. Dahlia. I call for her once more, wondering if there was a simple misunderstanding that caused the delay or if she didn't hear me clearly the first time. I turn to face my mother and ask her a question, but she just shakes her head and shrugs with a confused expression on her face. Where could she have gone when they had just been together? My attention and that of others are drawn to movement in the trees along the edge of the clearing just as I am about to declare that we need a moment to excuse ourselves. At first, it's so dark that I can't tell if Dahlia is actually approaching me from the middle of the group. However, as the figure approaches, the light from the surrounding twinkling strands falls on them, and in a matter of seconds, I experience a feeling that is only compared to losing both your voice and your ability to breathe. She moves through the packed tables with a slow but assured stride, drawing attention from every eye in the room. She exudes strength and grace, which cascade from her in waves and wash over every pack member who looks at her. My gaze follows the plunging neckline until it lands on the eye-catching piece of jewelry she wears around her neck, the Luna's obsidian, and I feel a surge of pride at the sight. Her dress seems to reflect and throw the light right off of it, the shape of it clinging to every curve and dip of her body. Now that Dahlia is just 20 feet away, I can see the tiniest trace of a smile on her lips as she fixes her gaze on me. This woman is oddly unfamiliar to me, even though I know her to be Dahlia. Her dazzling blue eyes, which are heavily rimmed with dark black liner and have a gold shimmer on their lids, are almost paralyzing. All traces of her typical curls have vanished, leaving only pin-straight strands of hair tied back in an impeccable sleek ponytail. Her hair, which is much longer in its altered state and reaches down to the lower part of her spine, sparked my imagination in ways that ought to be regarded as illegal. This woman commands your attention rather than merely attracting it. You can't help but stare at her because of the amazing and frightening energy that emanates from her. As she gets closer, I remember to breathe again, and it feels like a chore to just pull air into my lungs. You almost have to be out of breath to look at such skill. As she approaches, I reach out to her, feeling as though I've entered a different reality. This scene in front of me used to haunt me during quiet times when I was grieving over not having a partner. It used to creep into my dreams and transform them into nightmares about loneliness and longing. I can't bear for us to be apart any longer, so when she takes my hand, I draw her near to me. My other hand finds her waist curve, resting on her exposed skin. It feels alive and electric. "Hi," she says in a tone that borders on amusement. I don't care at all that I look like a complete moron right now. I try my best to keep this a private moment, but I know that the first few rows of tables can hear us perfectly well. I say to her in a low voice, "You are a vision of absolute divinity." As my fingers touch Dahlia's cheek, she flushes visibly at my remark. I have to control myself not to grab her in my arms and leave the entire gathering to have my way with her. With her lips pursed into a cheeky smile, her blue eyes playfully dance over my face as she asks, "Well, I did warn you your heart would stop, didn't I?" I chuckle and shake my head a little while biting the inside of my lip. I say, "You did, I'm still waiting for it to start again." She gives me a radiant smile that almost makes me faint. She nods slightly to the audience watching us and murmurs, "I think we need to say something now." Yes, they are all still present. As we turn to face the pack, I nod and step back, putting my arm around her waist but removing my hand from her face. Dahlia looks at me for a moment, but I know what she's asking before she even says it, so I nod in agreement. Dahlia looks out at the tables of spectators who are still waiting anxiously now that she has the floor. "I feel honored to be here tonight with all of you," she says with confidence and a strong voice. "I understand you know very little about me, and that I have much to learn about this pack as well. But I'm hopeful that in time we can bridge that gap, and I earn the gift of your loyalty and respect, and serve you as well as I can, as Luna." I observe as we are surrounded by nods of approval, with many pack members already impressed by Dahlia's effortless demeanor and earnest remarks. Observing firsthand the impact Dahlia is already having on our pack gives me another rush of pride. I take over for a moment. As some of you may already know, Dahlia came upon our pack in a rather unorthodox way. I watch as a range of emotions, including fear, confusion, and anger, flash across the faces in front of us. It was the rival pack we are currently at odds with, the Strikers, that drove Dahlia here. The words fall away from me, as if this isn't really my story to tell. They ambushed her former pack of Frostclaw and, Dahlia continues where I left off, and I escaped, without missing a beat. Dahlia swallows with emotion, and I automatically draw her closer to me, stroking her arm with my thumb to reassure her. I didn't realize I'd crossed your borders in the midst of running. I found Finn shortly after, and when we realized what we meant to each other, well, I was still reeling from the shock and grief of losing my pack. I just needed time. I add, remembering my own surprise and incredulity, along with my unrivaled rage at the strikers. We both did. We wanted to do this right. At least I'm getting better in the other areas, but the anger hasn't really gone away. So as delayed as this whole event might be, we want nothing more than for everyone here to enjoy themselves. If there is any night worth celebrating, it's this one. As I end our brief speech, I hear a few whoops and hollers from the back, and I can make out Charles's voice among them. When I see him, whistling loudly, I can't help but smile. Dahlia and I turn to take our seats, and there is a brief clatter of applause from the other tables. My dad gives me a nod of approval as I bring Dahlia's chair out for her. Well said, you two. She looks up with gratitude, and for some reason, my mind freezes for a second, engrossed in her radiant appearance. Dahlia laughs self-deprecatingly as I sit down next to her, find her hand, and tie our fingers together. I'm just glad I didn't trip on the way up. Greta laughs merrily and says, you looked like one of those runway models. I can tell right away that she is at least 3 glasses deep by this point. Boy, oh boy. Leaning across the table to look at Dahlia, Sam exclaims, your hair is so long when it's straight. Sam says, you did a really good job, Mom. Despite my admiration for Dahlia's curls, I must also give my mother credit for her artistic creation. Dahlia nods in agreement as my mom smiles and shakes her head. She did, didn't she? Dahlia asks. I smile to myself as my mother looks a little teary-eyed once more, saying, oh, my child, I had no idea you had so much hair. Over 2 hours, it took. But it was so worth it to see you come walking in like that. I realize how much my mother now views Dahlia as another daughter. I shift my focus to the queue of people slowly making their way through the food buffet, the general commotion sounding cheerful and agreeable. Dahlia's eyes are already on me when I turn to look at her. She asks, should we go line up? And I bring her hand to my lips while shaking my head and laughing softly. She removes her hand from me and presses it against my cheek after I kiss her knuckles. I bend to feel her touch. I grudgingly pull myself away from her to look at a table a few feet behind us, a perfect replica of the buffet tables for the rest of the group but without the queue. No need, there are a few perks that come with eating at the head table. Dahlia nods contentedly to herself and smiles. She jokes, I knew there had to be some kind of hidden advantages to this job. I roll my eyes amicably and reach down to take her hand once more. After observing that the rest of my family has already started serving themselves, I get up and pull her up, saying, come in, silly girl, I'm hungry. Dahlia gets up, wraps her arms around my neck, and leans in close to me while her eyes are desireful. I hope your appetite extends to activities beyond eating food. Her smile is slyly. I resist the temptation to tear this beautiful dress from her and drag her behind one of these trees. I could finally realize my dream from our previous dinner here. I tighten my jaw and hold Dahlia's waist tightly as my gaze drops to her lips, which are only a few inches away. I respond in the same low voice, running my index finger from her bare waist to the base of her spine. I'm near insatiable when it comes to you, Dahlia. You know that. She bites the inside of her cheek while a delicate shiver runs through her, and I watch with satisfaction. Similar to how I felt this morning when I gave her the dress, she responds simply, "Good. Now let's eat, please." Dahlia. The evening continues in what seems to be the ideal manner. The food is excellent. Sam's desserts, which she made upon request, are incredibly rich, and Finn has barely been able to look away from me during the whole evening. As Greta pours me a generous glass of wine, I hear the music begin, and I watch with interest as numerous people draw their loved ones and friends towards the dance floor. Even though they are hesitant, some people give in and laugh despite their reluctance. Finn says in my ear, "It's fun to watch, isn't it?" And I nod and smile back. When I see some of my preschoolers dancing with their parents, I remark simply, "They all look so happy." They mostly do spinning and hopping in place. I feel a surge of heat as Finn's hand settles on my thigh beneath the table. He looks at the numerous dancers and remarks, "It's probably my favorite part of these dinners. It's a sort of confirmation to me that I must be doing something right as alpha if the people here are this happy." I grin subtly, appreciating Finn's concern for his pack members' happiness and well-being. Although I have always believed him to be loyal to the pack, it is truly remarkable to witness his reaction in real time. I joke, "So, is this the part where we go out and dance too? Mingle amongst the common folk?" And Finn gives me a quick smile in return, rhythmically moving his thumb in a smooth line across my thigh. With a small grimace and real disgust on his attractive face, he declares, "I don't really dance ever." I let out a startled chuckle, though I guess I shouldn't be shocked at all. Nothing about the title conjures up images of someone dancing with joy, but this is the Dreadmore Alpha we're talking about. But I can't help but be disappointed because I've always loved dancing. I shrug and say, "Well, I suppose I'm not shocked, but I am a little sad. I love dancing. I won't pull your teeth out over it, though, if you're really that uncomfortable at the idea." Finn lets out a deep sigh and shakes his head. His eyes soften as they meet mine. "I might not love dancing for the fun of it, but it's your title night. If there's one night for me to put aside my disdain for it, it would be this one. You deserve to have a dance as Luna." When he responds, I smile and take his hand on my thigh in mine as the song shifts to a slower, more romantic melody. With an almost anxious expression in his eyes, Finn gets up from his chair and lifts me up with him. I simply shake my head in amusement as he asks, "I'm almost afraid to ask this question, but would you like to dance with me?" I smile and say, "I promise not to step on your toes." I take his hand in mine and say, "And yes, I would love to." He turns away and walks me over to the dance floor. We locate a gap between the other swaying couples, and I put one hand on Finn's shoulder while feeling his slide into mine. We settle into a slow rhythm as his free hand rests along the small of my back. I instinctively lean my head against Finn's jaw as we move to the soothing, flowing music. I feel my lips curl up as he whispers in a compromising tone, "I suppose this isn't the worst thing I've had to do." I turn my head away from him to meet his eyes and ask, "Oh?" His brown irises resemble pools of chocolate, reflecting the warm glow of the lights above us. He rolls his eyes endearingly as I joke, "I'm relieved to know dancing with me doesn't rank among your list of grievances." In a tone that is both inquisitive and straightforward, he states, "You could never be a grievance to me? Dahlia. Surely you must understand that by now. His index finger, which is resting on my back, makes a small circle across my skin, and the sensation of it makes me feel warm. When I feel Finn's hold on my hand tighten considerably, I bite my lip and shrug lightly, letting go of the bite my teeth are making. When Finn pulls his eyes away from my mouth and looks directly into my eyes, I chuckle and say, "Oops," seeing that slow-burning fire flicker in his eyes. I still find it surprising every time I realize how much he wants me. Finn gives a head shake. With an almost amazed expression on his face, he says, "You really are going to be the death of me." "Oh, stop," I say, blushing and shaking my head because I think his conviction is both out of place and frightening. I tell him, I could argue the same. It goes both ways. I bend over and crane my neck to get closer to you. Finn is able to keep a healthy 2 inches between us even when I'm wearing high heels. After giving my suggestion some thought, he leans slightly lower and stops before I can get to him. "Maybe," he says. His gaze darts to my mouth and then back to my eyes, saying, "But I mean it more than just figuratively, Dahlia. Whatever happens with this upcoming raid, if you're wounded or captured," as he starts to ramble, I interrupt, "No, don't." I can sense the sincere fear leaving him. Nothing is going to happen. This is going to be a piece of cake for us, especially now that we have greater numbers on our side. Finn looks around us, taking in the large number of people dancing, mingling at the tables, and clearing their dessert plates. The quiet, reassuring hum of conversation surrounds us. However, I can tell that Finn is aware of how seriously the striker's presence here jeopardizes everything he has worked so hard to build and safeguard throughout his adult life. He now needs to be concerned about me as well, which only makes things more complicated. At least that's what he believes. Finn turns to face me sharply and says in a low, serious voice, "I need you to deny that you're my mate if you're taken." His voice catches abruptly, and he quickly looks away while clearing his throat. "If they think you have any association to me, you're as good as dead and I can't," he says. "Finn," I trail off, scowling as I watch him so overcome with emotion, my heart pounding like lead in my chest. Finn looks back at me with a beseeching expression I've never seen before, saying, "Promise me, Dahlia." He needs me to swear this to him because he truly means it. It may be the only way he can enter the battle knowing that I'm right behind him. I ask him, not expecting to be thrust into this conversation, which feels far too serious and depressing for something as wonderful and meaningful as my title night. "Finn, can we save this conversation for later?" His hand on the small of my back guides me towards him as I watch his jaw flex as he swallows forcefully. I let him draw me in and settle into my niche, resting my head on his shoulder. Finn squeezes my hand that holds his own while his cheek rests on my hair. He responds with a heavy sigh, "I'm sorry, I don't want to ruin this night for you." When he says, "We can get into this later," I feel a little less nervous. I gently put my lips to his throat and say, "You're not ruining it." I chuckle ominously, and Finn nods. "I just want to pretend for tonight that we aren't preparing to march into battle." With the exception of the few occasions when Finn chooses to spin me around, we stay close as we continue our easy, gentle movements across the dance floor for the next few minutes. Unexpectedly, I laugh when he does, and my heart skips a beat when a ghost of a smile crosses his lips. At the end of the song, we are pulled in different directions. Nova leads me to a group of girls I recognize as her co-workers at the Packhouse Cafe, and Finn's father invites him to come consult with some of the blacksmiths who are preparing all the armor. Before Miriam finds me while I'm chatting with Jace, Finn and I spend at least an hour mingling with our pack members. I recall this is a part of the new job, but Miriam explains, "Sorry to interrupt, Dahlia, but we're moving into the discussion part of the evening. You and Finn will both have to weigh in on any concerns or questions our members have, along with the council members." We hadn't finished our conversation, so I nod and turn to Jace apologetically. "Right," I say. I smile hopeful ally and say, "I'm sorry, I'll have to catch you after." Jace simply waves his hand. He smiles amiably and says, "Oh yeah, don't worry about me. You've got all your fancy new Luna responsibilities to tend to. Go advise your heart away, Luna Dahlia." Still getting used to the new title, I chuckle and give another brief thank you before following Miriam back to a long table where Finn and other council members are seated. Finn gives me a hesitant smile as I get closer, dragging my chair out a few inches so I can slide in next to him. I wiggle my eyebrows and ask, "Guess this is the first official order of business, isn't it?" Finn laughs and puts his hand on my thigh. "You'd be right," he nods, looking around. He points to the council members and says, "But don't feel nervous, most of this stuff ends up being an easy fix, and it isn't just us alone making the decisions." I nod, taking a deep breath to ease the anxiety that is growing inside of me. "Right," I nod in agreement. I stutter, "Easy peasy." Finn must sense my discomfort because he gives me a gentle thigh squeeze to reassure me. Finn nods to Nicole, the woman I know from Frank's funeral. She makes a hand gesture in the direction of the empty area in front of us. She says, "Please let us begin," in a tone that is even and strangely at ease. I shouldn't be shocked, I guess. This is probably something Nicole has been doing since before Finn was alpha. She probably finds this to be just as thrilling as watching TV during the day. My breath catches as I watch the first plaintiff come forward, feeling as if ice-cold water has been poured into my lungs. I follow the looks of everyone else sitting next to me. Wearing a gorgeous emerald green dress that is modest and sophisticated but enough to highlight every dip and curve of her body, Jarvis stops herself in the middle of the open area. Jarvis gives me a deep smirk, as if she knows something I don't, and I feel my wolf stiffen, her fur standing on end. It's also not helped by the expression in her eyes. Behind them, I see a flickering sensation that seems to be anticipation or even excitement. Nicole folds her hands on the table and nods, "Jarvis, welcome. Let us hear your inquiry." Her confidence is straightforward. "Thank you," Jarvis says in a strangely modest and innocent voice, and I can't help but wonder what in the world she could be so upset about that she feels the need to bring it up with Finn and the council. I almost whisper to Finn, "I don't like this." I can tell he feels the same way because of his rigid posture. Finn's eyes flicker to my face, his mouth pressed into a thin line, his expression torn. In the same tone, he states, "We have an obligation to hear her out, it can't be anything serious, not with her." Jarvis raises her voice deliberately so that it rises just above the music and says, "I would like to raise issue with our leadership." Several heads turn from those lining the area. There's a pause while many of us, or perhaps just me, consider what she said. Without hesitation, Finn answers in a direct and icy tone, "If you want to raise issue with anyone about leadership, Jarvis, it should be me." Jarvis lets her fingers trail against her collarbone as she gently combs her lustrous blonde hair over her shoulder. Her weak attempt to win Finn over makes me feel angry and annoyed at the same time. She looks at him with her lashes lowered and bats them gently as she smiles softly and says, "I would never think to doubt you, Alpha Finn. My issue is not with you." Jarvis's mysterious remark causes Nicole's eyes to narrow with a hint of suspicion, as she is obviously unsure of her intentions. Nicole's voice is sharp as she asks, "Let's be as direct as we can, Jarvis, shall we? We have many others to hear tonight, and I'm sure Alpha Finn and Luna Dahlia are eager to rejoin the celebrations." Jarvis nods with a smile that borders on being sheepish, but I can tell it's all for show because of the glint of hate in her eyes. She looks at me, and I feel my wolf coil up into a defensive position, not trusting this sleaze at all. "Right, of course. I mean to say I raise issue with Luna Dahlia." I can't stop the acid from leaking into my voice, but I quickly correct it with a charming smile and a head shake of fake bewilderment. "Please, do tell me how I have managed to upset you after only being Luna for 2 hours. Jarvis appears to be getting her bearings as she takes a half step forward, preparing to move on to her next move. She opens with a convincing expression of sincere suffering, saying, "I have been part of the Dreadmoors since birth. This has been my home, my land, and my pack, my entire life. I desire only to see the pack safe and thriving. Dahlia is from an outside pack, with ways far different from our own. I wish to see the pack led by someone who truly deserves to be at Alpha Finn's side. I wish to enact pack law, and challenge Dahlia for the title of Luna by combat." "Dahlia," the air around us appears to have been drawn in. The quiet is deafening. As I try to process what I just heard, I feel a faint ringing in my ears. The first to respond is Finn, who gets up and furiously leaves his chair. He screams, "Jarvis, this is beyond absurd." He shakes his head in disgust and says, "How dare you do this, tonight of all nights? Have you no shame?" Seeing him so enraged gives me a small sense of relief. With her eyes blazing and the innocent exterior gone, she emphasizes, "I have every right to enact this if I so choose. It is pack law." She lifts her chin and crosses her arms over her chest, saying, "Dahlia has not earned the right to lead us, and while others may go along with it, I will not." Nicole states in an unmistakably factual tone, "Dahlia is Alpha Finn's destined mate, therefore, the destined Luna of our pack. While you may think she needs to earn such a right, you are mistaken. She had this right bestowed upon her the moment she and Finn met." Nicole's defense makes me feel grateful, and I wonder what I did to merit her favor. I gasp at what I see when Jarvis rolls her eyes. I resist the impulse to leap across this table and tear her lovely dress to pieces the longer she stands here. She lifts her sculpted eyebrows and says, "Bestowed upon or not, I am still within my rights to enact pack law and challenge her. Am I not?" A growl can be heard from next to me, Finn. Nicole starts, "Well, but I cut her off before she can say anything more. I respond, "I accept." This results in yet another round of silence. I can tell that the excitement in Jarvis's eyes is real and authentic. And I am aware that I have a fire burning inside of me that I intend to use to severely burn her. What? Finn growls next to me, his rage now focused on me rather than Jarvis. I will accept Jarvis's challenge. We will fight, and the victor will be named Luna. I respond with simplicity. Jarvis's smile resembles that of a lioness embracing her prey. Jarvis is unaware that the prey she has selected is actually more of a predator than the lioness. All she has to do is find out. Finn grabbed me by the wrist with a steel grip and pulled me out of my seat before I could say or do anything else. He pulls me away from the table, away from everyone, into the darkness, and into the treeline. We are followed by curious eyes, and as we pull back farther, I can feel them piercing my back. Finn spins around on me more quickly than I would have thought he could when he finally stops. His brown eyes are no longer friendly and inviting, and he asks incredulously, "What do you think you're doing, Dahlia?" They are instead blazing with the same black flames I have seen before, flames that could swallow up and burn down anyone foolish enough to oppose him. Fortunately, I am a lot of a fool. And fireproof at least when it comes to him. I am accepting her challenge. If she wants so badly to prove herself, then by all means, she can go right ahead. I will gladly give her the chance to fall on her own sword of jealousy and delusion. If she thinks she has any right to being Luna, I stop and feel my chest tighten. I conclude, or any right to be with you. Finn lets go of my wrist and paces frantically in front of me while pinching the bridge of his nose with his fingers. Simmering with frustration, he says in a low voice, "No, no, no, you don't understand." He huffs and runs his hands through his hair in a manner that makes me wish I could be doing it myself. Of course, I would be doing it while undressing this godly man and putting him to bed for a very long time. "God, how could you, how could she?" he exclaims. "That is definitely not appropriate at this time or location." I laugh and ask, "Finn, I can take her, what are you so worried about?" I'm genuinely perplexed as to why he's acting this way. Then, with eyes full of something more than annoyance or frustration, Finn betrays me once more. I see real concern, fear. He's afraid. He swallows, his Adam's apple bobbing hard as he says, "What you don't understand is Jarvis is one of the best fighters in our entire pack. She could give me a run for my money, and I'm a seasoned, practiced fighter. She was raised by one of our lieutenants. She spent more of her childhood sparring and learning how to be ruthless as all hell than she ever did playing with dolls or braiding her hair despite her appearance. She is no dumb blonde, Dahlia." I feel my confidence falter for a second as I process this new information and attempt to determine how exactly my chances are against her. Is she truly that talented? Finn doesn't often undervalue his opponents, and it appears that he feels that way. Or mine in this instance. Knowing that I have actually put myself in a difficult situation, all I can think to say is, "Oh, I see." I don't want to go into too much detail. His eyes are searching my face and his brows are furrowed as he asks, "Do you?" "Dahlia, she could very well beat you. You don't come from a fighting background, you have no formal training, and more than that, she has a personal vendetta against you for taking what she believes to be hers." I respond, "You?" He gives me a somber nod. He responds simply, "Yes." He shakes his head while holding my face in his hands and says, "She's deluded, of course, but delusion and revenge, coupled together, she is dangerous, Dahlia. Very, very dangerous. I can no longer hold his gaze, so I purse my lips and turn my head away. It's no wonder Finn is freaking out, this could be really bad. I had to go and be impetuous and accept her challenge before I had all the facts. No. From inside me, a voice responds, her hackles up, her teeth clenched with pleasure at being able to put this bitch down literally. So am I. I reply, my icy, unblinking eyes darting back to meet his. I put one of my hands over Finn's, which is still resting on my cheek, and say, she is trying to take everything from me, my pack, my title, and my mate. I clench my jaw and my wolf hops around in place, ready and oh so excited that I've stuck to my conviction. I'll be damned if I let some hussy with shiny hair do that to me. Damn it, Dahlia. Finn lets go of my face and moves away once more to start pacing. He stops to turn and look me down before yelling, you are walking into a losing fight. I know you're determined to set her straight, but Jesus Christ, do you know what happens to the loser in these situations? I blush as I confess, I might need to review all of this pack law information. Finn frowns, and his sad eyes give me the impression that someone is sticking a dull blade into me. His words struck me like enormous lead weights as he said, the victor gets to determine their fate, rejoin the pack as a loyal subordinate, or exile. Banishment? These pack laws are serious business. Oh, I see. I repeat, and Finn's eyes light up so intensely that I feel like they're burning through me. I don't give up, though, he needs to know that I can and will do this. Even though I might die. He says, there's nothing I can do to stop this. His voice may sound more helpless than it has since he first met Finn. He looks to the ground and sighs, alphas have no ability to interfere with things such as this, it is law, and no one is above it, not even me. I hate to see him in such distress, so I bite my lip. I initially assumed that his anger stemmed from the fact that I was putting up with Jarvis's absurd charade, but now Finn is furious because this may be the only circumstance in which his position of authority and title are worthless. Furthermore, his mate may be permanently banished from his pack as a result of this circumstance. With a cautiously hopeful tone, I say, wait, as an idea suddenly occurs to me. If she were to beat me, and then exile me, could you not just welcome me back, as alpha? Surely once this whole thing is over, your word will matter just as much as it ever did, and you can bring me back. Before I've even finished, Finn is shaking his head, as though he's been trying to explain to a school-age child that 2 + 2 can only ever equal 4, but the only response he's ever given is 5. Retaining his composure, he lowers his voice and says, no, no, no. I can't. Don't you get it? He reiterates, once you are gone, Dahlia, you are gone. Exile is permanent, non-reversible, it is law. As the realization dawns on me, my stomach knots. He shivers and says, even if I could welcome you back, it wouldn't be as Luna. You'd be under her thumb, and I'd be forced to. I'm shocked to see how obvious his genuine hatred for her is. I'd be forced to endure her as Luna. When I look into his eyes, I see the blazing flames reducing to mere embers, and beneath those embers, there is nothing but pure terror and terror. Being banished and losing my title would be his nightmare as well as mine. We would have to fight and disregard the pull we feel for one another, the tether that binds us together, and we would be forced apart as true mates. We would need to adamantly oppose that and follow the laws that our species is compelled to follow. Not only would I be banished if I lost to Jarvis, but Finn would too. I clench my jaw and steel my nerves as I inhale a deep, controlled breath. He simply shakes his head when I say, I understand how awful this could be, I do, Finn, but I don't have a choice in refusing her, do I? With what I can only describe as genuine defeat in his voice, he acknowledges, no, you must fight her, it is the only way, even if you didn't want to. I move in his direction and take his hand, but as soon as I do, he grabs me and throws me into his arms, crushing me against him. His voice is thick with what sounds like the first traces of tears as he whispers into my ear, I cannot live without you anymore, Dahlia. At his declaration, my heart stops beating in my chest. He rambles on, if you were to be exiled, and I can tell that his thoughts are racing with potential outcomes. I'd be forced to either choose to lead my pack, uphold my family's legacy, or exile myself as well, to be with you. I manage to free myself from his iron hold long enough to look up into his eyes and attempt to read them in the shadows. I ask him, why you not saying you would do that, are you? I don't think he could ever bring himself to leave everything he's created and invested years of energy into. Even I find it hard to believe an alpha would leave his pack voluntarily. I've never even heard of such a thing occurring, not in any way other than in stories and legends. Finn's eyes now melt into my favorite pools of warm chocolate as his fingers gently glide up to brush over the slope of my cheekbone. But you have changed everything, Dahlia. I don't think there is anything I wouldn't do, if it meant having you. His hand moves from my cheek to the nape of my neck, drawing me up towards him and resting his forehead on my own as his eyes pierce me. I would never have thought it possible, that there would ever be something that would mean more to me than my family, or my pack, he says. As I try to think of something to say, his words linger in the air for a while, ringing in my ears. There are no words, just feelings, to express my love for him. I love him more than the grains of sand on this planet, more than the dust in the air, or the flecks of pollen on flower petals. In an instant, I put my arms around his neck and press my lips to his, closing the gap between us. I give the kiss everything I have because I have never experienced love like this in my life. I consider all that is involved, not only for me but also for him. For his family, who now resemble mine quite a bit, and for the future I've been increasingly vividly imagining a future we might never experience. Everything. Finn returns the favor by putting his arms around my waist in a firm hold, with almost no space between us. My lips throb as his presses against mine, but the pleasure and pain only intensify the sensation as they bounce off one another. We've stumbled farther away from the group, and I can feel the rough bark of a tree brush against my back. The lights and music are now barely visible in the quiet darkness that surrounds us. Then, suddenly, without any prior notice, it occurs. I see memories of Finn flash through my head, but not mine. I see myself curled up in our bed's linens, soundly asleep, through his eyes. My hand, which is actually Finn's hand, reaches out and gently runs my fingers along my back. Just barely awake, I watch as a gentle, drowsy smile appears on my lips. I feel myself slipping away into nothing but happy bliss as one blue eye opens to gaze at me. After that, I'm dragged into a different scene where I'm at the preschool, watching myself take care of the children as the day comes to a close. I watch as I put backpacks on shoulders and touch a little boy's nose with a loving finger. I feel a surge of pride as I observe myself, but I am aware that this pride is based on Finn's recollected experience rather than my own. The memory version of myself turns to face me, grinning in surprise as I approach myself, and I watch with nothing less than adoration. Knowing that she is mine makes me feel nothing but gratitude and contentment. Then I'm having dinner with Finn's family, but I'm sitting next to myself and holding her hand firmly. As I struggle to accept that this person is real, present, and with my family, my eyes hardly ever leave her. More than that, though, she is settling in with them so effortlessly that it seems like it has always been this way. Something I'd long since told myself I couldn't hope for. She's finally here. Knowing that this is how things will be as long as we are both here, I can finally relax. Then I'm drawn into a scene that seems less real, as if it were a dream rather than a memory. A dream? A fantasy world? The details are a little unclear, and the edges are all hazy and less distinct. From the cliffside of the Dreadmoor's territory, I see myself encircled by Finn's powerful arms, my own arms, from this vantage point looking out at the ocean. My chest tightens with what can only be described as joy as I draw her closer to me and flex my grip around her petite frame. My hands descend to her enormously swollen belly, indicating that she is pregnant. As my big hands move over the bump, I experience another wave of unwavering joy, knowing that she is carrying my child, the result of our unwavering love and commitment to one another. And then, suddenly, just like before, I'm torn back. Finn's mouth is still closed over mine as I'm still pressed against the tree, but we both separate at the same time. We're silent as we process and try to understand it. Finn breathed so softly that I nearly missed it. It happened again. He looks at my face in astonishment and bewilderment as he repeats, "Why you mind-linked with me again?" I ask him right away, "You want a family," as the picture of me in his arms while pregnant is ingrained in my mind. Finn says, without going into detail, looking bashful. He is, in fact, blushing. After a moment, presumably realizing that he couldn't avoid answering this question, he responds, "Yes. With you, I want everything." His admission makes my eyes sting with tears. Knowing that he has considered that far ahead and that he truly desires that, with me. Just me. Good. I sniff and say. I approach him and stroke both sides of his face, saying, "I want to give you everything." Once more, Finn leans in to plant a tender, delicious kiss on my lips. My knees literally give way under me, but Finn grabs me and keeps his arm around my waist. I sigh, realizing how much this man loves me, and I melt into him, turning into a puddle of warmth. He would stop at nothing to ensure my happiness and to safeguard me and our future together. As we part ways, he whispers against my lips, "I love you, Dahlia." He sighs and kisses my neck, saying, "I've loved you from the moment I saw you, even if I didn't know it." He asks, almost amused, "Then, now, forever, it will only ever be you. Do you see now? Do you see how I couldn't bear to be in a world without you in it?" Death would seem a fairer fate than that. I stand up, startled. I firmly poke him in the hard chest and say, "Don't you ever say that." I yell, my heart aching at the thought. I swear to any and all gods, Finn Graves, I will kill you myself if you ever think of doing such a thing. Finn now appears to be amused as he leans far enough away from me to gaze directly into my eyes. He gives a small smile and says, "I believe you." Finn states, as though it were an unquestionable, hard fact, but it doesn't change the fact that losing you is the one thing I could never survive. I give a head shake. You are not going to lose me. Especially not by the hands of that conniving little excuse of a wolf who thinks she has any claim to you. I tear up. Finn glances at me and then nods. He looks back in the direction we came from, where our pack members, Council and Doug Jarvis, are waiting for us. Okay. In that case, I think we should return. Our extended absence has likely caused some commotion. Lacing our fingers together with effortless ease, I slide my hand into his. I say, "Let's go." Finn, when we get back to the table, Jarvis and the Council are waiting for us, their eyes a mixture of fear, confusion, and even rage. Anger from the Council members because Jarvis's request remains one of the most outrageous and dishonorable things we have ever heard, and from Jarvis herself, I'm sure, because we kept her waiting too long. Dahlia and I sit down again, and I say, "I apologize for our delay." I choose to call it that. We had to discuss the nature of this proposition, in private. Dahlia is the target of Jarvis's poisonous stare, and my wolf is essentially foaming at the mouth with anger. I knew she could be cold and heartless, but I never thought Jarvis would have this much sourness. What a miserable excuse of a pack member she has turned out to be. If it weren't for the fact that she was trying to fight and probably exile my mate in order to get a title and position that weren't meant for her, I would almost respect her for it. Nearly. Nicole nods, her silver eyes darting from Dahlia to me and then back to Jarvis. Right, we understand, Alpha. Luna, Dahlia has accepted your challenge. In accordance with pack law, both contenders will have 24 hours to prepare, and the challenge shall take place at dawn. Nicole repeats the rules. You have the opportunity, Jarvis, Nicole says sharply as she looks at her, to retract your challenge, and this matter can be put to rest. Do you wish to do so? Jarvis's gaze shifts from Dahlia to me, and for a brief instant, I perceive a tenderness and a desire in them. However, it vanishes as soon as I see it, to be replaced by a firm resolve. The answer from Jarvis is absolutely not. Her eyes move to Dahlia. I'll see you at dawn, she says. I hope you can enjoy the next 24 hours of being Luna, they are likely to be the last hours you ever have with such a title. Before I can stop myself, I growl. I try my best to control myself so that I don't jump over the table and do something violent. Dahlia's tone is steady and even when she responds. She gives Jarvis a stern look and says, I have a feeling you're very wrong about that, Jarvis. But nevertheless, enjoy your evening. Jarvis just sighs and spins on her heel, vanishing into the crowds of members who are still gathered around, eagerly observing the exchange. After a brief period of silence, Nicole lets out a sigh and shakes her head. Before returning her focus to the open area in front of us, she mutters to herself, what a shame, that girl could be so much more to our pack. Now, shall we continue? Just after midnight, Dahlia's hand is firmly in mine as I make my way to Charles and Riley's quarters. Charles's amiable but troubled face welcomes me as the door opens before I can lift my fist to knock. He nods and says, "Alpha, I had a feeling you'd be paying us a visit tonight." Then he looks at Dahlia next to me and says, "And Luna Dahlia, it is a pleasure to finally meet you." He shakes her hand. As Charles moves aside to make room for us to enter, she responds earnestly, "Finn has told me of your and Riley's roles in our pack. I'm grateful he's had such unwavering loyalty from you both." Riley, holding a mug of steaming tea, gets up from her spot on the sofa arm as soon as we do. The scent indicates that it is dandelion. She advances and bows her head slightly before holding Dahlia's hand. "Alpha Finn, Luna Dahlia," she says. "It is so wonderful to meet you, although, I regret it is under such circumstances." Dahlia nods and gives a sorrowful smile. As Riley crosses the room to the kitchen and retrieves a teapot and 2 mugs, Dahlia responds, "Me too." This was the last thing any of us had been expecting. Charles points to the sofa and armchairs positioned in front of the fireplace and says, "Please, sit." Riley sets the teapot and mugs on the little coffee table in front of us, pouring the steaming liquid into the ceramic mugs while Dahlia and I settle into the sofa. Dahlia smiles gratefully and says, "Thank you," as Riley gives her the first of the steaming mugs. Even though I don't want or have the capacity to drink it at the moment, I accept the one that is handed to me. Even if I wanted to, I doubt I could swallow the liquid back because my throat feels so tight. I start by saying, "We came here in hopes of discussing some training for Dahlia." Charles and Riley sit down in the armchair across from us, with Riley resting once more on the chairs and while Charles wraps his arm around her waist. Charles frowns deeply. "We heard of the challenger," he says. "On any day, it would be shocking for someone to make such a request, but on your title night," he continues, his eyes softening as he turns to face Dahlia. "I hope it did not ruin the entirety of your night." Dahlia gives a headshake. "No," she says, placing her hand on my thigh. "It didn't ruin it all. There were so many parts of tonight that were special to me." Riley gives a hopeful nod. "I wonder if this is such a good idea," as she smiles slyly and says, "I would be happy to provide training to you, Luna. I understand your previous pack was not a combatant one, but that does not mean you're incapable of learning." It makes sense for Dahlia to be prepared for Jarvis. But knowing Riley, she will turn Dahlia into such a lethal weapon that, when she's finished, I might have reason to be cautious of Dahlia. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.